Good evening to Guyana. Good evening to all our supporters, all Guyanese. Happy New Year. I think this is the first Alliance on the Move program for the year. And we are just excited to be coming into your homes this Saturday night. 2023 promises to be a good year. The Alliance for Change is going to play their role and make sure that we keep this government accountable and that we create an environment where all Guyanese, regardless of where they live, what they look like, what race, what age, can benefit from this wonderful opportunity we have, our additional resources that comes from our oil and gas industry. So tonight, I am happy that I have with me leader of the AFC, Kemraj Ramjitan. I forget I'm the chairman. This is Kathy Hughes. And of course, we have executive member of the parliament, chief whip of the Alliance for Change, David Patterson. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Good night, Kathy.
Very good, Kathy. I just want to make a little correction. We had one AFC program for the year with Dr. Nehusi and Nigel Hughes. Remember that?
How could I forget? I think I know that gentleman, Nigel Hughes. Yeah. What I should have said is that this is the first time for the year that I have the pleasure of joining you guys. So apologies, people.
Same here for me, Kathy.
Yes. So David and I are wishing you New Year's greetings and good health and prosperity. Yes, how could we forget that program with Dr. Nehusi and also Nigel? It got grave reviews. And I think, Kamraj, we can share with the listening public that we are going to be coming with more programs that deal with the issue of race in Guyana. It's a challenge that we've had, that history has given to us. And until we can speak about it, deal with the challenges, deal with the mistrust and misconceptions we have sometimes with each other, until we do that, we're not going to move forward. So I know next year we've got another exciting program that's going to deal with the issue of race in Guyana. We'll tell you later who our guest is going to be. But tonight, we wanted to talk a bit about where we're headed and most importantly, the budget. So come Monday, in 2 days' time, we will be going to the parliament at 2:00, and the minister with responsibility for finance will be delivering his budget. And we know that given the size of our returns, the deposits into our national resource funds, the monies we're raising and receiving from our oil and gas industry, it promises to be a large budget. So, Kemraj, maybe I could start with you. We actually have a press statement that we put out, and I can ask both David and Kemraj to go through some of the things that the AFC feels very strongly about that we expect to see included in this budget. So, Kemraj, maybe I can start with you, and then after David, I'll come to you because I know you've got some good information on the subsidies you hope to see when it comes to, for example, the use of the Demerara Bridge, the use of the Harbor Bridge. But Kemraj, I know you can speak a little more generally to start off.
Yes, indeed, Kathy, and thanks, Barbicians, again, and of course, viewership all across the country, as we do go generally all across the country, if not by this program, through the Facebook and YouTube. I want to say that, yes, we are going to have the biggest budget. That is a clarion call that will be all the time there for the PPP government now, since we signed on to that petroleum agreement that is now delivering so much bounty to the PPP government. As of this year, for the budget spendings, we would have an extra $209 billion, which would have been collected over last year. December 31st last year, we would have about $209 more billion in that natural resource fund for the year 2022, and which I am certain that the PBP will want to spend almost all of it, and therefore we are expecting then a minimum set of haves that the Guyanese people should be enjoying. I will go through some of the basic, the more elementary of them. The more complicated, I will leave for David. We want, as of this year, free education at the University of Guyana. Now, that must mean also a wiping out of the debts of a number of students that had owed the university lots of loans and so on. We have to take this sort of Damocles from the backs of, as a burdensome thing for Guyana's graduates, off their backs completely. And it is very, very important that even the newer generation, those who are going to go to university as of this year or even last year, September, that, they also not be with this burdensome, because we have the monies to ensure that payments be made. So we expect, at least for this year, a free education at the University of Ghana. We would want to see new shelters across all administrative regions for women seeking respite and to escape abusive relationships. Look, this domestic violence thing, and especially in Berbice, is getting beyond control. And the women, very, innocent women, they don't have a place where they can go to in the various regions. It is not only happening in Berbice, but it is happening in even what we call the hinterland areas. And this thing is getting, so large in its existence now. Plenty women getting battered. And so we would like to see some monies going to give help to these abusive relationships, for purposes of making buildings, ensuring that they will get meals, they will get counseling, and so to restore their lives. We want to see that all across the administrative regions, Region 1 to Region 10. And of course, we have always asked for, and we, whilst in government, that is the coalition, a reduction of value-added tax. We had done a 2% from 16 to 14. We would like now that to be reduced to 12%. And as the shadow agriculture person, I would like to see further concessions and VAT exemptions on all equipment and machinery for all businesses involved in agro-processing and agriculture and so on. We know that the private businesses sectors have proposed this a long time ago. This is not only exclusively for agro-processing and agriculture. We have limited it here in our halves, but we would like to see also in manufacturing and other things. But at least a minimum at this stage, we are asking for this duty-free concession and VAT exemption on all equipment and machinery for agro-processing.
Sounds good. Kamraj, one of the things that I think would be useful to explain to our viewers is that why we think education must be free at the university level is that it fits in nicely with our actions to ensure that local skills, local Guyanese are able to participate in the new sectors that are emerging. And by that we mean, we know this oil and gas industry is new to Guyana. We know that at this stage we have to hire a lot of persons from other Caribbean islands, mainly from Trinidad, because they've had an oil and gas industry for more than 100 years, believe it or not. But how is it that you are able to help Guyanese young people prepare themselves to be educated, to get the skills, to get the qualifications that will be needed in Guyana now and in the next 5 years and in the next 10 years. And that's why free education at the university level is so very important. So we hope that we're going to see that in the budget. Given all the resources that we have, it is necessary that we do something for our young people and for our students. David, I know the AFC wanted some specific um, pluses that can go directly into the pockets of Guyanese that have to use our bridges in different parts of the country. Can you tell us a bit about what we were looking at and what we also expect in the budget that can bring relief in those areas?
All right, Kathy, good night and good night to all our viewers in Berbice, in Region 6, Region 5, Region 4, and of course on social media. Camraj is right. There is one indisputable fact that Monday's budget will be the largest budget ever. And that, I think, will be the only positive spin the PPP will be able to make. You hear us all this while the largest budget ever, the largest budget ever. Of course, as Camraj said, because we have more money, based on the
Mm-hmm.
same much maligned and talked about PSA that we signed, the production agreement that we signed. While of course we know how it can be improved, even as it is at the moment. Last year, the country got 1.26 billion US dollars, which is about 209 billion Guyana dollars, based on the formula that the PPP put in for the um, extracting funds out of the National Resource Fund. They will be able to withdraw about a billion US dollars to next year, this year, to put in the budget. So when you add it on to what we had last year, I mean, they add on the $209 billion onto it, of course, we will have the biggest budget ever. So folks, don't be fooled by this number. The devil has always been in the details.
Yeah.
And as such, last year we saw a series of cash transfers, cash grants, handouts, because we cared of disbursement to the sugar workers, flood releases, relief, COVID relief, and all those, right? And while we have been championing in and out of government that cash transfer should happen, and we're happy that persons were able to receive some money during this what we call hard worker season living in Guyana. We think that it should be more broad based in the sense that whenever you do things, I mean, of course, there's subsidy on fuel, which of course um, benefited a lot of motor users and those things like that. But we have some specific proposals, and in regard to Berbice, the Alliance for Change is proposing that the government subsidize the toll on the Berbice Bridge.
Full
Right now, for full subsidy. Right now, because under the APNU AFC administration, we provide the Berbice Bridge with a 10% subsidy. So therefore, you pay $1,900 instead of $2,200 to cross the bridge, and that was put in place since 2016. We're saying it's time now, with the extra money, that it should be increased to 100% subsidy. What that means is that the minibuses, the cars, can transit the Berbice free, and it would not cost the government not even 1%, 1.4% of everything. But for the Berbice Bridge alone, it's 0.4% of the 1 point something billion dollars we have in the Natural Resources Fund. More importantly, not only cars will be there, mini buses will be able to transit free, which obviously means that the saving will be passed on to the consumer, which means that the mini buses can drop their fares. The canters that bring goods from Georgetown, if they come from Georgetown, all the delivery, the banks, the IH products, and some car products, they have to pay $13,600 now, just one to cross the bridge. If you take that price away from the cost of the distributor, we're hoping that will be passed on to the citizens of Berbice. And we're talking about everything: cars, minibuses, 4x4s, canters, trucks, maritime vessels. And we're hoping that if you do that, at least the burden on the citizens in Region 5, Region 6 will be reduced. And obviously, and vice versa, the products that are being produced in Berbice that you
Coming
bring
to
down to
Georgetown.
Georgetown will be able to be sold cheaper, which obviously
Cheaper.
makes it more attractive to you,
Yeah.
and obviously. So we're saying that we're also saying not only Berbice Bridge, they must do the same for the Demerara Harbor Bridge, the Wisma Bridge in
Mhm.
Berbice, in Linden, Kubukari Crossing, which is from Linden to Mabula, the crossing at Madia, the crossing at Bartica. We're saying that the government can afford to pay a subsidy for all these crossings. You know what I mean? And it has a not only an effect on the economy, makes things think it has traffic management now. You don't have to stop anymore of free flow of traffic, a more convenient and more things to go. And the bridges will not suffer because the government is paying this here. So it's done in other countries. In Germany,
Mhm.
when they during the COVID, every citizen for 6 months were given, I think, something like £200 or something like that, and which they can redeem for transportation. So it's nothing new. We
Mhm.
have so much money, we should start spreading it out.
Yeah.
And we're also asking that, mean that they expand the Rossignol New Amsterdam free service, which we put in place by the AP and UAFC, when we could not get the Burbage Bridge to accept the subsidy, which they eventually did, so that school children, teachers, medical personnel, public service can cross by speedboat free between Rossignol
Mhm.
and and New Amsterdam. And we're saying the same for Georgetown and Friedenhoop, and then
Mhm.
put on a service from East Coast, East Bank to Friedenhoop. The idea is we want to ensure that there's a much mooted team by Ali called One Guyana. And if you take off these burdens on these particular areas, that influences the entire Guyana. It's not only done for any specific group who's in
Yeah.
hardship, and we agree there are groups in hardship. So those are some of the issues that we want to do. I mean, I've also asked that we do a subsidy for electricity. We
Mhm.
can afford it,
Mhm.
and the subsidy for electricity is 5,000 Guyana dollars for all residential consumers. So therefore, whenever you get your bill, if your bill is over 5,000, if it's 5,100, the government pays the first 5,000. The consumer
And you pay
pays
the
only 100.
100. Mhm.
If your bill is under
Mhm.
5,000, you obviously have it free. So therefore, that allows the person, that allows the citizens of the country in Region 6 and wherever it is in the country, because the same thing would go for the hinterland areas as well. So they would have an additional not only savings on the bridge, they'll have additional more disposable income for themselves. For commercial businesses, we're proposing a $10,000 rebate for commercial businesses, and we're hoping that when they get this rebate, they pass it on to the citizens. And then for industrial consumers, we're proposing that you get a $15,000 per month rebate. These here are would barely make all these proposals I put will barely make a little ripple in the $209 billion
Something.
which they have now. This is only from the oil. We're still getting money from taxes. They haven't just
Mhm.
taxed it, but then when you come to that, they're still getting money from gold. We're still getting a little bit of money, very, very little
Yeah.
bit of money from sugar, forestry, all the other things that you are. So it's not only the oil money, but we're still getting money from all these things. So therefore, if they can't afford to do this without, and
Mhm.
it's not inflationary, it wouldn't cause inflation. It only allows the person, the ordinary, hard-working citizens to have additional income in their pockets. I mean, Kat, I know that we have issues on old age pension and so, and reductions of VAT and those things like that. And I know you're going to address that, and we can follow up after that.
Yeah, no, thank you, David. That is really excellent because it keeps money in people's pockets. It means, as you were saying, with the subsidy, that traveling across our bridges would be absolutely free. And of
Absolutely.
course, you've explained the implications for the development, reducing costs on transportation, agriculture, bringing
On
produce
everything,
into
building products,
every
every
single
single
thing,
thing, and
every single thing,
trucks. I mean,
everything,
every single thing
everything.
for everybody. I mean, for
Now,
anybody in
David,
Burpee or wherever.
yeah, David, I'm glad that you mentioned about how important an initiative like that is, just because it helps to reduce the challenges that Guyanese are facing with the cost of living. And I happened to be reading the editorial for Stabrook News today,
Yes.
and they had some very interesting figures because it relates to what it is that we can do to ensure that our food items are at a cheaper price. Now, people may not know that, and this is according to the new Guyana Marketing Corporation, which everybody will know is the government agency that deals with agricultural produce, that deals with the cost. So Stabrook News is quoted here, and they're comparing the cost of some of our greens, and they're looking at what the cost was on December 9th, 2021, and what it is December 8th, 2022. And Guyanese, you're going to be shocked. This is where we can see how costs have gone up and how this government has done very little to keep those costs down and to give us back a little more in our pocket. So Bora per bundle in 2021 was $66, a bundle of Bora. By 2022, it was $187. From $66 to $187. That's an increase of 183%. And you and I know our salaries have not increased 183% in that 1 year. Belanger went up three for $200 to three for 500. Cabbage is another big thing. Cabbage $200 in 2021 and now $460. Pak choy, I don't understand what's happening with the pak choy at all. Pak choy was $60 and now $160. And it goes all the way down. $20 a cucumber used to be, now one cucumber is $60. And that's why these initiatives that the AFC are putting forward are so important, and we hope we see it in the budget. Now, David and Kemraj, I want you to comment on something, because what the PPP often says is that, oh, we have these huge amounts of money that are going into a gas to shore pipeline and going into this project and that project. But how would you comment on putting hundreds of millions of dollars in that area and not putting a little extra in the pockets of people's shirts and skirts?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
well, let me.
yeah, you go ahead. The Ponzi
Well,
schemes.
Kati, let me start off by saying this. When I was a
Mhm.
youngster, I mean, I tell you, I used to like reading, and you read these fairy tales, and there's always a story about at the end of a rainbow, there's a pot of gold. And I
Yeah.
always used to be looking around. Yeah, you remember, and I always be looking around and see when there's a rainbow in the sky, if it falls anywhere by my neighborhood, so I could run to it and get this pot of gold. But it's a myth. It's
Yeah.
something that they tell us, right? And they're like a
Yeah.
fib. And that's exactly what the PPP is doing with things like the gas, sure, and all this, what is so-called transformational problem. They're putting it up in huge billboards, and they're getting their usual persons to come and sell us. At the end of this rainbow, there's a pot of gold, but there's
Yeah.
not. And then, of
Mhm.
course, now we have to wait until the rain falls and the sun and the rainbow comes, even if there was. So we have to wait around to try and get this mythical pot of gold. The gas to shore project they're saying is going to be finished in 2024. There's nothing that the PPP has done has finished on
Yeah.
time or even finished perfectly. So therefore, what we're saying is, folks, we don't believe it is a pot of gold at the end of the PPP rainbow. In the interim, we should not be suffering as we are suffering now.
Yeah.
We are suffering with their promises that at the end of the gas to shore project, which is in Wales, that the electricity prices will be halved. That is almost impossible. That will never happen. But
Mm-hmm.
we're saying, look, deal with us now so that at least some of us can survive this really hard season intact, that our homes remain intact, our families remain intact, our children
Mm-hmm.
can stay in school, right?
Yeah.
So while they paint these mythical, the pot of gold thing, so, and there's a leprechaun coming out and all these fancy myths, because they're really good at that, at coming and putting up billboards and throwing something. Us who are grounded in the hard reality of living in Guyana, we as the Alliance for Change have to take care of those people, because who feels it knows it.
Knows it.
So they will come with all sorts of fancy words,
Mm-hmm.
transformative and this and visionary and those things like that. We looking right at the here and now. We would like the people in Berbice, Region 4, all the regions to be able to survive until they figure out that the fairy
Mm-hmm.
tale and the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow promised by the PPP is nothing but a myth, as in the storybooks.
Yeah.
Cameron.
Cameron,
Yeah,
do you want to
Kathy,
add?
I want to complete the editorial because at the very bottom end of it,
Mm-hmm.
with all the high cost of living that they mentioned with that bundle of goods,
Mm-hmm.
it goes on to say Guyana need more money. Guyanese, sorry, need more money in their pockets.
Mm-hmm.
On the eve of Monday's budget, it is imperative we see relief for all.
Yeah.
And this is their analysis. This can be done by rebates on electricity,
Mm-hmm.
water, even taxes for those who choose to pay them. The messaging from the government to date is not encouraging. You know, we started off talking about the halves to the budget since yesterday. Today's
Mm-hmm.
editorial is of similar thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that indeed, of course, Stabrook came out. This
Mm-hmm.
quality newspaper, they came out and they indicated as similar that which we were deliberating on since
Mm-hmm.
day before
Mm-hmm.
yesterday. So I want to say too that these myths that the PPP want to create does not have like what we are asking for, a more redistributive character about them. You see,
Mm-hmm.
when you give the subsidy to the minibus driver and you give him to the man that is bring down the boar and the baigan to board the market and so on, it has an impact that will cover everybody. But
Mm-hmm.
when they go to the big things like the big infrastructural works, knowing very well that the corruption that happens there, and
Yeah.
that we know what the economists say about it, it is a big set of money, and we know for a fact now through Sugate and all that big kickbacks are taken by these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only a very small percentage of 1% of them or less than that that benefits
Yep.
from what we call these massive pie in the sky schemes that will cost 2 or 3 billion US dollars. What
Mm-hmm.
we need is to get our monies, the 1 billion US dollars, say, that will come up to the 209 billion Guyanese dollars, to be distributed all across. And that
Mm-hmm.
full subsidy for all vehicles, for all these Kurupukari Bridge and Wisma Bridge and this bridge, will go a far way helping the purchasing power of the people of the country, as David just mentioned. And so it is important to understand that. But this government, as just like what the editorials say, they stopped singing the international. They've gone into what is called social Darwinism. And Borbicians should know, because let me tell you something. Just like when we, years ago, and this is where, my little history always come in. When Bornham, they put up the toll gate, if you hear how they start for cuss up and almost, want for bund down the toll gate at 19 Village and I think 62 Village.
Mm-hmm.
The Bonham wanted to indicate to them that, look, we will need to pay back and so on. After a while, toll gates then paid off for the road and whatever, and the
I
toll
never
gates
said.
came to an end. Why
Mm-hmm.
can't that Barbies Bridge now that has literally paid off? But even if it has not paid off, what it has done is that we have given them a petroleum production agreement that is making so much money that we can stop that toll. Barbicians must remember this. The
Yeah.
toll gates at 19 Village there and at 62 Village, the PPP, the one broke them down. As a matter of fact, they had court cases about, what the fella the name, I forget the man now. and so on. So it is important that at some point in time, in view of the fact that we have a revenue stream that is so huge, that
Mm-hmm.
life is made better for the Guyanese ordinary people, the poor people, and the middle class especially. And so it is important that these halves that we just mentioned here, subsidies and so on, and this monthly electricity subsidy for all categories of consumers, we should ensure that that is in the budget, and hopefully it will be there. And I want to bring that to the attention of everybody.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kamraj, because when we hear about these big projects and the large amounts of money, I mean, even now to rebuild a school, they're talking about, over 300 and something $1 million. So all these projects are big.
or
But
more.
so sorry, David.
I said, or more, 300 something or more. You know what
That's
I mean?
true.
There's
That's true.
we no longer talking. We no longer speak in hundreds of millions. We talk about billions. You know what I mean? We're building
Yeah,
roads.
Billions.
no, that's
We're building
true.
a road
That's
for
true.
2.4 kilometers for $13 billion. You know what
That's
I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
Previous
it's
to that,
crazy.
yeah, and I want to give a comparison that people must
Mm,
understand what's really going on. Under
mm,
the coalition year and under the 23 years of the PPP, the largest single funded, I'm not talking about the ones that we took loans,
mm.
I'm talking about the ones we funded out of the consolidated fund from our revenues, was only about $400 million. But we have the PPP are billing roads now for 30. I'm talking single road. They're billing roads. $400 million was the largest single things, right? But we had a few. Sorry, 1.2 billion. I make a mistake. So 1.2 billion is done in three parts. They are billing roads now for 14, $15 billion. I mean, I'm
Oh my
talking
God.
10, 12 times. So we no longer speak about hundreds of millions or tens of millions. We
Yeah.
talk about $1 billion.
But
They
David,
and I
has
heard
the
at some point
cost
before
but has the cost increased in the last couple of years to that extent?
we have had no everything has
That's
increased,
what
Kathy.
sounds
That
very
is admittedly so because inflationary. Everybody would know that inflation has hit us
yeah,
terribly. They
yeah.
always blame the war on Ukraine. They blame
Yeah,
COVID
no, I know.
and everything, but it's a worldwide phenomenon,
Yep,
right?
yep, yep.
But here the things. Local material, which doesn't have to go through Ukraine, which isn't affected by
Sand and
COVID.
spoon.
Those materials has risen even more than overseas material. A load of sand is
I know.
$30,000. Ton of stone is 20,000. It used to be when the APNU AFC demitted office, a ton of stone,
Mhm.
and everyone could check this was 8,500. It is
That's right.
now $20,000 for a ton of
Wow,
stone.
wow.
Uh, when
And
we demitted office, a truckload of sand, right, was $8,000 to $10,000. It's now $30,000.
yep,
Timber has
yep.
gone up, and it had nothing to do with Ukraine. I mean, because there's no Guyanese logger fighting the war in Ukraine, but they
No, I know.
always get up and say it. But they like that.
Mhm.
I mean, we've been battling with COVID for the last 3 years.
And
We've learned to live
Yes.
with it. We have to take our safeguards. But whenever you speak to them, they say, "Oh, international pressure. This. Why sand
yeah,
gone up?
yeah.
Why
But the
Why
other
stone
thing
gone
that,
up?
Bora? Why
yeah,
Bora
Yeah.
gone up
Well, why more about them?
180%?
You know what I mean? Like, it's like if they, I mean, they always talk about how they remove 200 taxes when the APNU is there. It's almost like if these guys taxing Bora now, you know what I mean? Because I can't
oh
Yeah.
figure out why
yes,
Bora
And we know that that 200 taxes is a fake
and
it's
because
yes,
a
we've
fake
been
thing,
asking
you know what
them
I
to
mean?
list all 200 and we know that they
yeah.
can't list it because it is not so.
But that is what happened yesterday when
So
I was
they,
up in.
yeah.
No, no, I was up
Continue,
in
Conrad.
quarantine yesterday, and
Mm,
a lot of them have been asking the question, what going on? And by the way, Barbicians are really suffering now. A lot of them shame
mm-hmm.
to tell the sufferation that is going on, and it is it
Yeah.
is it is terrible. I yesterday I even asked a couple of them to come on the phone and make the comment. All of them back away. And that is how typically sometimes I have to sometimes be very critical of my Babishan colleagues and so on. But you gotta speak out. That is what
Yes,
Jagan
yes.
taught us. That is what the forefathers taught us. Don't just go and wriggle in your corner like a worm. You have to speak out. And a lot of them are not having 2 square meals now.
Wow.
We ask that fella Basdeo. Basdeo was there
Mhm.
on Orilal and we were speaking about the whole thing. But there is another
Mhm.
thing. The spending of so much money with
Yeah.
this massive substandard work, and then you get the contrived histrionics of Mr. Edgil come in and say, contractor, come here. And I have to tell you that you have to start this project and this and that. And then why the project? Look, this is all scampishness, Barbicians,
Hmm.
from the Minister Edgil himself. It is all scampishness. He's the one to be blamed to first give a
That
jagabat
contract.
like that the
Yep.
contract to
I,
begin with.
I want to,
Yep.
yes, Conrad, I mean, I don't want to get off the button, but as you mentioned it, right?
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
the beginning of after budget 2022, persons sent to me, individuals from all around out, a list of contractors who never,
That's right.
the worse than Fifth Motilal. I mean, Fifth Motilal, he said how he built up a walkway, he built a parapet, he did, you know what I mean? And they sent a list of contractors who were new contractors, you know what I mean, who got 6 or 7, 88 million and those things like that. These 2 contractors, the one at El Dorado and the one at Bristol Street, names were on it. So I smiled, right? Because you found a man that probably yesterday was Shine Rice. The
Yes.
telecom,
Yeah.
88 million, gave $22 million. He didn't even turn up yet, you know. The contract is $88 million. They give him $22 million, Papi, so we could do $22 million. The man never turned up. Ejel now shame because I just sent for call the man, and the man said, "Now you, Papi, I got better connections than you. I ain't coming. Who's you?" So I just say terminated. He give a man to build a road that the man only thing the man know but roads is what he's walk and drive on. There's a
Yeah.
they give a father, son, wife, and daughter 4 individual contracts, 44 million Guyana dollars each. The son, wife, daughter ain't even know how to sign their name and even know what a cubic or a ton of stones look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you do so don't be fooled, Barbation, that Edger coming telling these people he knew who he gave
Who
the
he
work
gave?
to. They never did.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Our law said, our law states specifically that you must have 3 years prior
That's right.
experience of similar road projects. They waived that. They said, "Nah, are we Mati? Me
David, I'd
friends,
like
me."
you to. I'd
Yeah.
like you,
Yes.
David, to remind us of that contract that I was totally horrified about. The company in across the river, West Bank,
Mhm.
West Bank of
Yes,
Demerara,
yes,
that had two
yes,
years
yes, yes.
experience. Could you remind us and share that information? Because they were not the
No,
lowest bidder. There were 16
of
other
course.
bids.
And let's listen to me, folks, right? And I say
Mhm.
this here, you know, I mean, I know it was very late because when we say this here, there are people, they're enablers, and you see them every day. They're in the private sector, they're in the what we call the fourth estate. They're the ones that you see walking behind Ali and Jagdeo and those things like that. You know, what I mean, almost like
Mhm.
in the days when Mike Tyson used to have that fella crocodile walking behind him, shouting, "Michael Tyson, you're the best, you're the best." They have senior people that walk behind these guys, and you see them and they talk about, you know, what I mean,
In
how
Borbis,
great
we call them the Bariat. The Bariat what has
the
followed them.
barriers. So, and
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
do you know how the barriers get paid? $1 billion contracts. The head of
Yeah.
this, the head of this association, the head of this association, $1 billion contracts. Never did anything before. Never,
Yes.
ever did anything. They're people who look. I was surprised to note that they did a talk show person that head frizzy up, came to me, came to me to tell me that he has a contract doing some work at by the new bypass road, and says to
Are
me,
you
it'll be a good thing,
serious?
dead serious. I'm telling you here, so and says to me, it'll be a good thing if I can work along with him because the optics, I from the opposition, would be good. And I'm like,
No,
well, what's going on here, buddy?
but
No,
but
and
David,
these are serious things. And so,
what is
and
sad about this though?
any and everybody can get a contract now. With the motor car racers. Well, of course, he may say that he raced his motorcycle on the track and he fell down, so he has a close association with the road. But he has millions of dollars. There's no joke here. There's not a laughing matter.
No,
And and here is the sad thing about this whole issue. We acknowledge, as you started off by saying, Kathy, that we need more skilled laborers, we need more
Mhm.
contractors, more welders, more skilled and semi-skilled workers. The sad thing is that to give their friends and family these jobs, they're bypassing persons who are doing it before.
And there are many
They're
of
not
them. Yeah.
even decent enough to
Yeah.
say that they
Give
have
some.
this one Guyana team, and one Guyana means one Guyana. One is a single unit. Have this
Mhm.
team. Let's ensure that every Guyanese, let the more seasoned ones get the bigger jobs, and let their new, the Bariatis and whatever you want to call them, they now go and do the parapets and those things like that. They have knocked out an entire band of
Yeah.
contractors who've been giving yeoman service from Barbies, and the Barbies contractors know who this as well, because they've called me and already and said raise that, but they're scared because of course
But
there's a very vindictive government that we have here. So
absolutely,
folks,
absolutely.
and you know what, and you know what is the second most equally egregious issue? The same two contractors that they cuss up and all of them are doing the bad work. All they have to do tomorrow, Camraj, is change the name. They
Yes.
change it from it's El Dorado, they put Dorado L, and using the same basis when people give them the contract in the first place, they can get back their contract again. Just a different name,
But
because there's
but David
no
and
chemical.
Kemraj, but David and Kemraj, the worst thing is that it's us citizens, people that are depending on a street to be fixed and fixed properly, so it lasts for many years, so their children don't have to walk through mud to get to school. It's all the bridges that people in different parts of the country have to cover, have to drive over for agricultural, for their livelihood, for transportation.
Yeah.
The problem with this is that at the end of the day, we as citizens get the short end of the stick because there isn't a decent road that is left. There isn't a decent bridge that is left,
That is so
and we're
true.
reading about it all the time. And so, Kamraj, when you were talking earlier about the contracts, the other thing that I think we need to remember is that the way the PPP has set up this system, it's a few people that are getting these massive contracts, and they're the ones making the money.
That's right.
So think about it. The Bora example, Bora increased 183%, but you're giving the public servants 7 and 8%. That's to show you just how ridiculous it is. You have a man that is getting, you probably have about 30 people that are getting these billion-dollar contracts. And so they started off with some money. They started off with 5 or 6 tractors. And now they get this big contract based not necessarily on their ability, but just who they're friends with. They're now able to buy another 40 tractors. They're able to expand. And then the poor other persons who really should have an opportunity, like everybody, like those big ones, to get into the game and to maybe start with a small contract, do it well, and to then develop and to be able to compete. And this is the problem with what we're seeing now. It's one strata of people that are getting more and more and more. And then for ordinary people, they want you to be happy with $25,000 or a
And
forty
It,
Barbicians,
thousand or a
Barbish, yeah,
$40,000
yeah,
voucher when somebody is getting, as David says, nearly a billion,
that's
not
right.
an
and
M
more and
million,
more.
billion and more. So this is what is so wrong with what we're seeing here.
And
But
if I may say, Kathy, I
mhm,
want to interrupt at this stage because
sure,
intervene.
sure.
Sorry, it is also important to understand that we are also calling for old age pensions for the
Yes.
pensioners to
Hmm.
go up to $50,000.
Hmm.
And that will be 0.1% of the Natural Resource Fund,
Yep.
or approximately touching about 1%. And,
Yeah.
and, and it is with knowing the cost of living as mentioned in today's Stabrook News. These people even can't live on the $50,000.
Yeah. No.
Disability benefits increase it. I think it is now 15,000 to 40,000.
Right.
And
And the
for our
minimum wage.
disabled,
And the
yes. And
minimum.
then the minimum wage, we have indicated that it must go to 150 because $1,000 because of the adjustments and so on to cost of living and persons with minimum wage not paying income tax. It will help in a big way that set of 90% at the bottom. This
Hmm.
$1 billion contractor and all of them, they just probably 0.1% that are making all the money in Guyana. And we are not getting it.
Yep. Yep.
The larger 90% or 99%. And that is why, Barbicians, you are feeling the impacts of it. This government that used to call itself a working class government is today not singing the international, as the Stabrook editorial said. It feels like, those who have to die the competition of the fittest, they
Hmm.
could die. You could die in Bobbies. We ain't concerned about you. Social Darwinism is what the editorial said. And it means that it is like now running the race. And if you fall down dead, we ain't care for you.
Yep.
But the
Yep.
ones that will win and come out on top, well, we must exalt and we must, you know, surhawi as it were. The trouble with that is that this can bring tremendous resentment. It will bring civil strife.
It
Barbicians,
started.
yeah, Barbicians right now want to come out openly. They shame what they did there in the last elections. They think that we were not governing properly, but everything now is turning on the PPP, and that is why at almost every level they're trying to cover up their tracks. And now
Hmm.
you will get what's his name, Jill, running around the place and say, "I am a man of the people. I come here to solve this problem." Solve what problem? They
He
were the
is the
sources
problem.
of it. He is the problem.
Source
He
Yep.
is
source
the
of the
problem.
problem. So yep.
Yep.
And
But
that
Cameron,
is why, please don't get confuffle with what he is doing. As I call the thing, it is the theatrics about it. They are master actors and actresses.
Yep.
They come around and they
Kathy,
say,
Kathy,
"Well, I have to
Yeah,
cut this,"
David.
and so on. So it is
Yeah.
important that
I
we
want to
consider.
interject just as
Sure.
interject Cameron, because
Yeah,
I am looking at time and it's going.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
You got
Barbicians,
10 minutes
Region
more.
5, Region 6. I want you all to also note out in budget 2023, they probably come over like $20 billion for Gaisuko. Gaisuko, Rose Hall, supposed to be up and running.
Yeah.
They're supposed to have carried and then you know better than me why it isn't up and running. They sell and more packaging plant. They said they transport it up to Barbies.
Yeah.
Barbies,
Yeah.
this would probably be a nice time for you to sit around and see when they're passing because they didn't reach yet. None of the estates is open back again. They can blame every single thing because this year is floods, labor. They're blaming you, They're blaming you, Barbicians, so you don't want to work with them. You voted for
Well,
them to
Mr.
bring back the
Jagdio
sugar.
said that anybody that ain't working is lazy.
Oh
It's
yes,
lazy.
that's
Yeah, yeah. But Barbician voted for said that they supported the people because they want to bring back the sugar estate. And now They saying it out that you who wanted the estate back in want to work for them. So, but Camraj, the lowest ever 47. They never hit any of their targets. Guys,
Absolutely.
Suko, none of their targets, but they got billions and billions of dollars there. You know what I mean? Their managers are resigning and saying that the CEO is clueless. Well, me, you know, he was clueless, but you know what I mean. But you
We
know,
know him
it's
good.
like the emperor's new clothes. You know what I mean? It takes somebody else to tell you that, hey, that fella there is clueless. Nothing is done. I mean, and even now we so bad we importing sugar. Now they got fake sugar on the market, fake
Yes, I saw
Demerara
that
cocoa
today.
on the market. You know
We
what I mean?
we
They're
really
faking
in
the
a bad
Demerara
way.
gold.
Really
Yeah.
bad way.
Yeah.
Rice region 5, rice has declined. You know what I mean? I
A
have
13%
over the
decline
Christmas
in the first quarter.
Hmm.
30%.
First
I
crop.
met a miller from Wakenham, right? Somebody from Wakenham who
Hmm.
said out they have a mill for the year for this. That was last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's no
Wow.
nothing very quiet about that. Under the AP and AFC, a million tons of rice and those things is dropping. Gold has declined. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Every single sector. And then they would tell you though, that Guyana is in the top 5 in the non-oil sector. Come on, folks. These are just things that they tell you, but you can't touch
Yep.
it, you can't feel it. Everything in every fiber your being is saying that this ain't true. Because we can't be
Yep.
so great and glorious
And we
and
feeling all of this.
we belly
Yep.
still hungry. We gotta cut down. We can't eat chicken twice a day because of it. You know what I mean? We gone back. But it's a good thing that everybody got a kitchen garden now.
Yep.
Started in COVID,
Twice a day, you
and
talking about David. You know them Barbicians tell me where we meet. Then I get them once a week. They can't buy
Wow.
chicken. Once a week.
Wow.
And it is
Wow.
rough.
That's
And
really
that is
rough.
why we are
no,
asking that all these
all
exemptions
the
and so
yes,
on.
the things
Yeah.
here. So fishermen, the fisher folks, they promise them till they find a solution to fisher folks. All they give them is cash transfer. People
Yeah.
gotta leave their fishing boat every single day. When they got that cash transfer, they get $150,000. Can't carry them anything.
Yeah.
Leave their
Couple
boats, their
couple weeks
livelihood.
that done. Couple weeks
That
that done.
and they
Yep.
leave their livelihood. They're abundant fishing, and they're going to try their hand all sorts of odd jobs. And then, I mean,
Yep.
this is a short program because we got to talk about crime, Cameron.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
What are they going to be doing for crime in the industry every single
Hmm.
day? Every
Somebody
single day,
getting
they
robbed.
are accidents, or somebody robbed, and the domestic violence
Yep.
partners,
Yep.
inter partner violence. I'm not only
Well,
talking
I
men
think that's
abusing and
because
killing
people are
women,
under stress, huh?
and
Oh,
they're
yes,
losing
that's
People
the
hope.
are
main
under stress.
consideration.
They're stressed. They turn into alcohol. You know,
And
we
Yes,
alcohol
women,
is
yes,
one of
we
the
yes,
cheapest thing around the place.
yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah. It is. It is.
So,
You know,
so,
but I
so,
do want.
so,
I do
so
want to
when
remind people. I do want to remind people that in 2019, when the APNU AFC was still in government, we had gotten some excellent reviews from the IMF in terms of the management of the economy.
That's right.
And as we're wrapping up, I do want to pick up on a point that Kamraj had mentioned at the start of the program. And that is, for the first time in our history, Guyana is blessed with these large amounts of money that we can use to develop our country. And if the APNU AFC had not started this oil and gas industry, if they hadn't started with the technical advisors they put in place, the ministry that they put in place, the office,
The department.
um, the department that they put in place, all of that led, and the push and commitment, all of that led to us having first oil. And we mean by first oil, drawing up the first set of oil and starting to fill those barrels. That happened in 2019. We discovered oil in 2015. And so I say that because when they throw out this load of nonsense that makes it sound as though they're the best thing in managing the economy, That's not so. You know that. Go back and check what the IMF said, what the World Bank said. All those predictions were in place, and the foundation was given and put in place by the APNU AFC. Now, every government has a responsibility to build on that. So we are glad that they're building on that. But what we're saying now is that more must go into the pockets of the majority of citizens. And I think in this program, we've showed sufficiently where the imbalance is. And people of Guyana, we know the PPP run this country based on fear. They want to tell you, shut your mouth, don't say anything, and just go along your way. But if we had done that in the world, there would have been more loss of life, more discrimination, more pain. And therefore, we have to stand up and open our mouths. And the beauty about it today is that you could do this anonymously. Send us the information, do your posts on social media. You don't have to show your face. There's so many ways. Gentlemen, we literally have about 4 minutes left. And as we prepare to go and listen to this budget, I am hoping we're going to be pleasantly surprised. And next week, when we come back, we will be applauding the PPP for all that they put in place. In fact, in our statement, the AFC said, once we see these kinds of deliverables in place, we are happy to support a budget that gives back to the people, that is fair. So, as we close off, Kamraj David, give me your final words and comments.
Um, Look, I want to say, Kathy, we might be having great expectations as to what will be in that budget. Oh, yes, billions will be spent, but they will be spent on the wrong projects and on the wrong programs. The ordinary people of Guyana, just like the 2021 and 2022 budget, are not going to be the emphasis. They're not going to be the core set of target for the PPP. The PPP has since and I have been saying this a long, long time, since the Jagdeo presidency has made de minimis the workers of this country. They have gone on a very corrupt course, and they want the bigger projects and the pie in the sky projects to fool Guyanese people. And when you consider all the big projects that, especially Jagdeo, who still is the president in a sense, by bypass, he calls himself vice president. Look at the Skeldon estate factory, the Skeldon sugar sector reform, the cable, the fiber optic cable, all of them things collapsed.
Yeah, he's never had a successful
He's
project.
never had a
Let's
success,
forget
and
that.
he's still there, and he's still controlling the economy, the commanding heights of this economy by
Let me
virtue.
let David.
And
So
so it
true.
is
David,
important that
we recognize that. Yes.
recognize
Thank
that.
you very much, Kathy. Thank you very much, Kathy. And my plea is to the viewers and listeners of this program is to ask yourself a question. If you are better off today than you
Yeah.
were last year and the year before, and
Mhm.
and if you're honest with yourself, you will say it how it's not. Then ask yourself what is needed for you to be better off. Most of us will say that they need more money in their pocket, and that is
Mhm.
what they don't need. A new skyscraper. We don't need a new airplane for Jack Deo and Irfan Ali, and we don't need these things. We don't need these fun things. We need money so that we can support our family, we can educate our children, we can provide for them, we can have the security. And when they finish, when you listen to the budget on Monday, ask yourself at the end, and I can guarantee you will say to yourself, your nana will go on. They don't care. Kati.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I want to say, though, at the end of the day, let's wait. We will see the results. And I just say that more and more, let our voices be heard. We are one people, one nation, one destiny. We have so much opportunity, so much to build on, and we in the AFC are continuing to play our role and to make sure that we're going to voice the concerns that you have and speak out on all the illegalities, the corruption, and all the things that we're seeing. I want to close also by saying that COVID is still around, there are new strains. Please be safe. The other thing is, we continue to have carnage on the roads. So
Oh
many people
yes.
continue to die on the roads. Please go slow and get there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on our Alliance on the Move program. It was wonderful to be with you tonight. And we look forward to chatting with you next week. Same time, same place. Thanks to Sherrod, who is behind the scenes, and also to DTV, who are transmitting this program throughout the on social media, and we're sharing it in several other areas. Have a good, safe, and happy week. Thank you very much. God bless everybody.
Very good night.
Night.
Thank you, folks. Good night. Good night.
Thanks.